All right, here we go with another question that's asking you to determine the meaning of a word or phrases. In this case, you have to figure out what the phrase means of a gentleman of honorable pedigree. And not all of us just start off knowing the meaning of that phrase, right? A gentleman of honorable pedigree. We could probably pick out a word in there that we recognize, honorable or honor, and that would help. But pedigree, if you don't know what pedigree means, it could be tricky to answer this question. So the best way to get this one right is to look for context clues. Oftentimes you'll find context clues in the area around the sentence that you're looking at, especially before it. So before and after. But in this case, if you look just one sentence before, you're going to find everything you need to know to get this answer correctly in terms of figuring out what a gentleman of honorable pedigree means. So when we look at the answer options, does it mean that he acts confidently? That's A. Does it mean that he's a trustworthy person? It's B. Does it mean he has refined social behaviors? If we even know what that means, that's C. And then D, does it mean that he comes from a respected family? So what I said earlier about looking at context clues and looking at the phrase or the sentence that comes before what you're focusing on, in this case, what comes before the phrase a gentleman of honorable pedigree, we see things that tell us about his background, right? It's like his name is Michael O'Neill. He's known as Prince Michael. And then here it says he claimed descent, meaning he claimed to be the descendant of ancient Fenian princes. Okay. And because of this, maybe he thought that he was fit to become the Prince President of Ireland. So he thinks that his ancestors are ancient princes. And then it goes on to say he was undoubtedly a gentleman of honorable pedigree and of many accomplishments. So, taking that background and that context into account, let's look at this question again, but with fresh eyes. It says that he's undoubtedly a man of honorable pedigree. And now that we've read that sentence, we have a little bit more of a clue as to what that means. Does it mean that he acts confidently? That is actually an option still, right? He wanted to become the Prince of Ireland. That's kind of a confident, arrogant action, and that fits well with what we know about him. So honestly, A is still kind of a decent option if you're looking at these four answer options. B, he's a trustworthy person. We're not really getting anything from the previous sentences about him being trustworthy. And we know from the rest of the passage that that doesn't really fit. So we wouldn't have a description of Michael here that's not accurate to who he actually is in the rest of the story. So B is not a good option. He's not really trustworthy. He's running away from the police. For C, he has refined social behaviors. That means that he's kind of like, refinement means that you're very classy, that you know how to act in high society, that you're kind of like aristocratic, refined, that you have really good manners. And that would match kind of with what we're looking for of having an honorable pedigree. If we don't know what that phrase means, then we might think that it means that he has refined social behaviors. He's a really kind of polished guy. And then D, he comes from a respected family. And I think the only thing that's going to help you if you don't know what pedigree means here is saying, okay, I do know what honorable means. And that is very similar in meaning to respected, respectable. And you can think back to the time period where this was written in and these ideas of pedigree, of your inheritance, who you could claim descendants from, what your line was and your bloodline was. And that could be a big thing in determining if you were respected, your family kind of bloodline. And so reading in the previous sentence that he says that he's a descendant of a bloodline of princes, that helps us match together the correct answer, which is D, with what we're seeing in this phrase, undoubtedly a gentleman of honorable pedigree. So these princes that he claims to be descended from, that he claims are his ancestors, that's the meaning of pedigree. It's kind of like your family tree. So he comes from a line of princes, and that's his pedigree. So D here is the best option, but I could see how you would go for either A or C, and B is really just not a strong option at all. So even if you have no clue, if you can eliminate B as an option, you've narrowed your choices down, and now you have about a 33% chance instead of a 25% chance, which over the long haul, as you're taking many questions, you're answering many questions, that'll increase your score, and it might be just enough to get you to pass.